with Alexis Hasselberger, time management and productivity coach. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you're trying to get buy-in on an idea, trying to convince somebody of something? Maybe somebody has just told you about their brand new great idea and you know for a fact it's not going to work and you know why, but you don't want to hurt their feelings and you're pretty sure they're not going to listen to you anyway. Well, if you have ever had a conversation like that, you know how frustrating it can be to feel as though you're kind of talking to a brick wall. Nothing is moving. Maybe it just feels like you're talking in circles. You're getting a little frustrated. Nobody's seeing your point, right? And in these circumstances, I want to share with you a little language that can really turn things around. And so this language is to use the phrase that we can get from improv comedy and to use yes and. So in improv comedy, when somebody is your partner on stage, et cetera, and they're suggesting something, your job is to yes and, right? Your job is to take whatever they say and go yes and add on to it, right? So that you can keep the scene moving. Well, we're going to take this and we're going to tweak it for our own use to use in productivity, right? To get to an answer faster, to help people to convince themselves, because we know that it doesn't really work when we try to convince them, right? So you can use this language of yes and this can really turn conversations that could be combative and really not going anywhere into conversations that move forward and are collaborative. So let's talk about a few ways that we might see this in action, right? Let's say your manager or your boss hands you an assignment or something that they need you to do on a very quick timeline, and you unfortunately just don't have room for it, right? And you don't want to say, hey, I don't have time for this, et cetera. You could say, yeah, I would love to help with that. And which one of my current projects should I deprioritize so that I can work on this one within the timeline that you have, right? But they might not even be thinking, oh yes, this person has a full plate of other things to do. And this conversation will help them see that using the yes and. It puts you in a collaborative space. Now, let's say that you are meeting with a coworker and they have this great idea for a project, but it's something you know that you don't have the budget for, or you know that there's going to be some other reason why it's not going to be able to happen, right? You can say, yeah, that is a great idea. I really love that. And I'm wondering where we're going to pull the budget from for this to happen. So this puts it back on them. You're not trying to convince them there's no budget. You're just asking, right? You're asking, and they will then come to that conclusion on their own. Or maybe there's something you actually don't know, right? Maybe there already is budget approved for this thing and you just weren't privy to it. Now, let's use it in another circumstance. Let's say with our kids, right? Let's say you have a kid who does not want to put on their coats and it is freezing cold outside. And usually we just get into the power struggle battle of like, yes, you're going to put on this coat. No, I'm not. Running around the house, etc. Instead, what if you said, yeah, I understand you don't want to put on a coat. It's bulky. I get it. And what are you going to do when it gets cold outside? Now, you're not trying to force anything on anyone. You're just asking them what's going to happen. Now, 9 times out of 10, they're going to think for a second and say, well, okay, maybe I'll bring it along, right? Or maybe, they're stubborn, like some of my kids sometimes. Then they might say, well, I'm just going to be cold. And then that's a lesson they'll need to learn, right? But you can use this concept of yes and to turn any conversation from something where you're trying to convince someone else, which is not really going to be very effective, to something where you're letting them convince themselves, or you're finding out information you didn't know before. And that's really helpful too. If you've tried this tactic before, let me know in the comments. I tend to call it a secret Socratic method because you're just kind of questioning. If you have tried it, let me know. If you have a different technique that you find works really well for getting buy-in or convincing people or letting them convince themselves and it moves you much faster to resolution, let me know in the comments as well.
Hey, it's the video editor here. Just want to quickly say drop a like and subscribe. As you can see, only 8% of the people that watch our videos are actually subscribed. So just subscribe, man.